I'm Grace Donovan, 22 years old, and 2 weeks ago, I collapsed on stage in front of 3,000 people. The day was meant to be my valedictorian speech, the culmination of 4 years of relentless effort. Instead, it became the day everything in my life fractured. It started with a doctor's call in the middle of rehearsal. Brain tumor, immediate surgery required. My parents were unreachable in a way that spoke louder than words. I was alone. 3 days later, I awoke to sterile white walls, the beeping of monitors, and two faces I knew would never abandon me: my grandfather and my best friend, Rachel. The first social media update I saw was my sister, Meredith, and my parents in Paris, smiling, oblivious to my near death. "Family trip," they wrote. "No stress, no drama. Not a single thought of me." That moment crystallized a truth I had been avoiding for years. I had always been invisible to the people who were supposed to see me first. 4 weeks before graduation, the house was already revolving around Meredith. Magazines sprawled across the kitchen counter. Napkin samples, floral arrangements, seating charts, all commanded my attention. "Grace, you'll manage," my mother said, not looking up. My own graduation, my milestones, my achievements, they didn't exist in her timeline. My life had been a balancing act: a 4.0 GPA, 3 jobs, college paid for by scholarships and my own TEPS, all while Meredith received full financial support from our parents. I kept silent. I kept working. I kept hoping, like a ghost present for everyone else's benefit. Grandpa Howard was the only person who truly saw me. When I confided in him, shared my anxieties about finals, the speech, the exhaustion, he listened. For 20 minutes, I wasn't invisible. I was a granddaughter, not an afterthought. He promised to attend, to be my witness. And then, before Meredith barged in to complain about dry shampoo, my hope flickered and vanished again. The week before graduation, stress consumed me. Double shifts at the coffee shop, sleep-deprived nights, mom calling demanding I help with her favorite daughter's engagement party. My pleas went unheard, my exhaustion dismissed. I suffered silent nosebleeds and migraines, attributing them to stress, unaware they were early warnings of the tumor that would later threaten my life. Rachel tried to intervene, insisting I see a doctor. "You're destroying yourself for people who won't even show up for you," she said. I nodded, but nothing changed. I was trapped in the roles I had been assigned: caretaker, silent achiever, invisible child. The engagement party was the pinnacle of my erasure. 6 hours on my feet, arranging flowers, refilling champagne, while Meredith collected applause for her future. Her jokes about me, so subtle, so dismissive, cut deeper than any criticism from a stranger. I excused myself, leaned against the counter, and watched my family celebrate another life, mine absent from the narrative. 3 days before graduation, I collapsed again, on the floor of my apartment, immobile. Rachel's voice through the phone urged me to call Grandpa, the only person who actually cared. My vision doubled, my head throbbed, yet I continued to push forward. Graduation loomed, and with it, the need to perform my life as if nothing had broken me. Graduation morning, the sun a blazing furnace over the stage, 3,000 people waiting. The podium felt like an altar. I gripped the microphone, seeking Grandpa's gaze in the crowd. Rachel was there, 2 empty seats beside them, reserved, unclaimed by those who should have been first. I began my speech, but the tumor's pressure distorted my vision, my voice, my body. White-hot pain, collapse, darkness. In the hospital, doctors moved swiftly. CT scan, MRI, brain tumor pressing on my frontal lobe, emergency surgery within the hour. Calls to my parents went unanswered. Grandpa signed consent forms. Rachel stayed. 2 people who truly cared held my life in their hands, while those who should have been there were halfway across the world. 3 days unconscious, awakening to Grandpa's relief, Rachel's tears, and an empty space beside me where my family should have been. Instagram confirmed the betrayal. Paris, cocktails, champagne, smiling faces, zero concern for my life. I understood then fully what I had always known. Their concern was conditional, their love performative. Recovery was slow, layered with anger, pain, and the beginning of clarity. Grandpa explained a hidden inheritance, a freedom fund my grandmother had set aside for me, unknown to my parents. They had attempted to control it, but it was mine, a seed for independence, for a life beyond their neglect. They called, frantic, not for me, but for the money. When they arrived, 5 days after my surgery, I saw the calculations behind their concern. My family had flown back not for my health, not for my life, but for access to what was mine. Their apology, their tears, were camouflage over years of neglect and indifference. Confrontation was inevitable. Grandpa facilitated it. Mom, Dad, Meredith. Every unkind word, every ignored birthday, every invisible moment laid bare. I spoke. I demanded recognition, not obedience. I wanted to be seen, not as a ghost, not as a backup, not as the sister who quietly enabled the other's happiness at the expense of my own. Boundaries were set. Healing began. The days that followed were slow. Meals shared with Grandpa and Rachel, therapy suggested, my apartment rented near the school where I would teach, independence nurtured. Meredith blocked me on social media, but her engagement ultimately crumbled when truth reached her fiancé's family. Karma, quiet and just, had a rhythm all its own. 3 months later, in my classroom, surrounded by students, I felt my worth. Their eyes, their attention, their trust reminded me of what I had always deserved. I had become the person who showed up, not for obligation, but because I was seen. Grandpa's weekly calls, Rachel's constant presence, and my own efforts reaffirmed it. 1 year later, Meredith called. For the first time, without expectation, without demand, she acknowledged her faults. I listened, offered empathy, but made it clear. Reconciliation required real change, not performative gestures. Slowly, cautiously, a tenuous bridge formed. 2 years after graduation, I sat in a crowded auditorium as Grandpa received the Community Educator of the Year award. He dedicated it to me, acknowledging the courage I had shown, the life I had claimed for myself, despite neglect, illness, and betrayal. Tears streamed down our faces. Love, true and steadfast, was not given, it was shown, it stayed. I had built my life from scratch. I was seen, valued, alive. I had learned that family was not always blood, it was the people who showed up. It was Rachel, it was Grandpa, it was me finally choosing myself. I keep my grandmother's letter, her handkerchief, the tokens of my past. They remind me not of pain, but of possibility. I teach, I heal, I live. And when I look in the mirror, I see Grace Donovan, visible, worthy, and whole.